Dear Venerable Sisters and Brothers, Dhamma friends, today is our third day, accordingly the third Dhamma talk. To start the talk, may everyone you consent with 3 times, sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Rupang caidam bhikkhave anatta tasma rupang abādāya rupe abādāya samvattati naca labbati rupe evang me rupang hotu evang me rupang ma ahositi. Dear Dhamma friends, in the discourse named the Ananta Lakkana Sutta or Panchavaggiya Sutta, the Buddha is giving in a series order that first statement the Buddha made to the group of 5 monks, the bold one, Rupam Bhikkhave Anatta, O monks, the matter is with no self. And Rupancai de Bhikkhave Atta Abhavisa Naidan Rupang Abādāya Samvat. He rationalize it and reason it out. If the rupa, if the form or the matter is under one's control, under one's, if it is governable, never one will allow to this form to lead to any infliction. And further, one can command or demand, may that my rupa be like this, may it not be like that. So there should have a kind of a command. But upon that, later the Buddha says, Yasmacha bhikkhave rupang anatta. But amongst this matter or the form is without any self, without any essence. Therefore, it leads to this kind of infliction. No one get the commanding power, or no one can interpret terms. May my form be like that. May my form not be like that. So this is the way he's communicating with the 5 ascetics. So taking this as a set of instructions for meditation, as such, we can go into the material part of our psychosomatic phenomena, that is the nama-rupa, and dwell upon and meditate upon the form, the matter, the body. And there, at the beginning, we remove all the conscious activities of the body and then let the involuntary activities and keep vigilance, keep mindfulness, and keep diligence to see this phenomena without an interference in a choiceless manner. So if that is happening in a skillful way, the Buddha himself is giving the path, tracing the path in Satipatthana Sutta. The long breath gradually will come into the short, and even then without hesitating, without questioning, without entertaining doubts, if one to observe in detail or observe in terms of natural characteristics of the in-breath and out-breath, one can go more and more closer, immediate and nearer to the form. In this case, maybe the in-breath and out-breath, or rising and the falling of the abdomen. Whatever it may be, one can observe under one's very nose. So when that elementary characteristic or its intrinsic characteristics or personal characteristics or the natural characteristics is the language, is the medium that the meditating mind is communicating with the matter. More and more you learn in terms of natural characteristics, more and more it come proximate, immediate with the matter. Ultimately, you can see through, you can penetrate through these individual characteristics. Ultimately, you will end up with the common characteristics. So to say, individual characteristics of the in-breath and out-breath appear to be or appear like merging each other, and everything is like a flux. Even the in-breath, you find a flux. Even the out-breath, you find a flux. Ultimately, you yourself has to decide whether I can separate in-breath from the out-breath. All of them appear like a flux. That is the point where you penetrate through these individual characteristics. And when that happens, this is kind of a transition, kind of a evolution. When that happens, one has to continue with the same undisturbed mindfulness and resolute faith. It is not a superficial faith. It is not a kind of a faith borrowed from others. One must have a resolute faith. This is the what I have to see through. I have to look into. This is what does it mean by insight meditation. So even without getting disturbed, if one can see through these common characteristics, there is a point whereby ultimately the meditating mind and meditated objects merging each other as if they are hugging each other. So when that happens, in the samatha meditation it is been called as the jhanic experience or absorption. But in vipassana meditation in theoretical basis, it appears like practically the same, but there is no such absorption. So therefore there is one advantage, that is to say, you can still observe the object in a critical way, observe the object in an inquiring way, inquisitive way. If you are to get absorbed into the object, your inquiring mind shut off, and your inquisitive nature you have to sacrifice. But in the vipassana, still you keep the inquiring mind and inquisitive nature, and therefore theoretically it appears like absorption, but you feel merging, but your openness or your vigilance or your mindfulness is very vivid, very vital and very rejuvenating. So this is a kind of experience one has to master, one has to season by repetitive application of the mind 1,001 times. When it is happening, one can understand from the distance. When you are observing the in-breath and out-breath, it appears like a very gross. In-breath is separate from the out-breath. When it is in-breath happen, you know it is in-breath. Equally, you know it is not out-breath. But it is coming closer and closer. You find that individual characteristics slowly fading off. Instead, the natural common characteristics are becoming prominent. When that happens, object become very bored, object become very monotonous, and mind become somewhat lethargic, because this dramatic nature, multivarious elementary characteristic fading off. Instead, the flux come into being. So that is the point where the mindfulness, the faith, the energy has to be really well-founded upon your own experience. Even though when you are listening, you gain some kind of a confidence, sure. But when you are contemplating upon that, deducing and rationalizing, still you gain. But specifically when you are practicing under your very nose, you develop a lot of ways and means how to go through this evolution, whereby the natural characteristic fade off, common characteristic comes. When it comes, you have to have special boost up energy. You have to boost up your energy, otherwise you will fall asleep, or you will get up and go, or you will feel is monotonous or sometimes fearful, lost orientation and alienated and sometimes outcasted like feelings. But if you go prepared and knowingly this is what it is going to happen due to your past experience and from the theoretical backing, you can go through it. Once you go there, whenever the mind and the object merge each other, there's a special, there are specific changes are going to take place in the meditation, and in various ways one can observe it. Therefore, you can have a list of items to validate this kind of merging. But each and everyone is not going through all the list. Individual has their own ways of going there. So when that happens, you are as if entering into this flux. And soon you go in, you can see this is me and this is not me. In the sense, for the first time, ego and non-ego, the border become vague. Boundary become no boundary. And when that happens, your attitudes towards the soul, your attitude towards the matter, your attitude towards the mind completely revolutionize or shifting of the paradigm happens. So while this kind of meditative experiences, feelings, perception and your volitional contribution also challenged, and how one can maintain the balance, how one can see the equilibrium in this critical moment. Because the in and out boundaries disappears, sometimes you can feel the seen through nature, so that and sometimes it appears like a light perception, sometimes lightness, and this observation of the matter through these natural characteristics, earth element, fire element, water element, air element, like they also disappear, leaving only their shadows. So therefore, their concrete nature of the matter disappears, and sometimes yogi understand I have completely gone through the matter, like, but one has to be aware that the shadows of the matter is there, but that is not much easier to perceive, that is not much easier to define, that is not much easier to grasp and communicate. So that is also communication problem arises. And being so, how one can still be well contented and let this phenomena establish, let this phenomena mastered, is a completely a coincidence. Many, for my understanding, my personal experience, many can go nearing that situation, but hardly one can survive to see the matter and its shades, shadows, and then going further into fully establish and mastering the situation. So, when such a challenge happens, if you are wise enough, if you are ready for your noble quest, you will get another question paper for the next class. That is, as far as we have lived in this world with this concrete matter, earth element, fire element, water element, and so on and so forth. But now there are only shadows available, and in and out no boundaries, you can't communicate. It's a new thing. Under such circumstances, how my soul, how myself, how my egocentric idea is going to accommodate this, how to embrace it, how to tackle it, it's a completely electric thing. This change in this going through of this critical situation, somewhat equal to your death. This is what somewhat happened in the death, that you see your matter is now no more. But mind is finding something to get the anchorage. So either it hold its shadows, or it at least hold its perception. Now, Rupa is no more, but the Rupa Sanya, you make it substantial thing for holding, to anchor your soul. So, it is in a struggle. So, therefore, if one can understand the dwindling part of the breath, the tapering side of the breath, and the subtlety of the body, everything happened, how the mind become agitated, how the mind become adjusted according to the new situation, you have to master it 1001 times, and one day you will see no boundary situation. Now see, sometimes you may see it as a colors, sometimes you see the lightness of lack of the concrete matter, and sometimes you feel everything is there, but they are not mine, they are made out of wood, or they are made out of grass or something like that. So a lot of scenes happens, and you don't know it is reality or your concept under such circumstances. So just imagine if someone, the practitioners, if the mind, if the mentality, if mental situation is imbalance or inferiority, what kind of impact can happen? If someone is having superiority complex, what kind of impact can happen? If someone is going to say, matter is my body, my soul, therefore whenever the matter reduces, matter extinguish, soul extinguish, such a person will really run in panic, thinking that everything is dissolving and extinguishing, and then that is the end of it. Some other, those who have the concept like of course, mind and the matter is there, they are related, but they are not extinguishing like the materialist, they are eternal, and therefore they can live at a certain distance. Even the matter reduces, mind can survive. Or even the matter reduces, the mental part can be maintained in the same thickness without going to the dilution. All these things are going to give a very nice interpretation each and every time you are going through this situation. So, in Theravada tradition, it says, whenever you are mastering your materiality, under meditation retreat situation, mastering of your breath, or rising and falling, when it is going to the unperceivable level, lot of hidden factors, lot of perversions in the mind, lot of cheating nature of the mind going to prop up. So, you have to completely take a stand of a neutral observer. You must not believe what the mind is going to interpret. Mind is interpreting, it is desire, it is conceit, it's ego. So therefore, if you are going to accept them in full-fledged, you will be really disturbing your mindfulness, and you will interpret, and you will entertain, you will be glad, you will be undesirable, all the kind of coloration can happen. So that is why when someone is going up to that level, he must have a fairly balanced mental situation and good faith, and based upon good morality, then only one can keep it in the mind. I must observe this in a choiceless manner more than when you are observing breath. Because now breath has already gone, it's only shadows are there. So, due to the uncertainty, due to the volatile situation, mind come out one after the other interpretation, one after the other reasoning out. So, this is the way you can understand how the subconscious is working, how the irrational part is working. So, can somewhat, without instruction, without preparation, survive that situation. So that is what the Buddha says, even if you are meditating in the non-Buddhist eras, you will never survive this situation. Because it's a real hurdle, a real challenge, not your superficial mind, not the rational mind. There's underneath, there are a lot of tendencies and irrational situation. When the material paradigm is going to shift into the shadows, it's a completely different. I would draw a parallel in the physics. As I mentioned, the Newtonian physics based upon the matter as particles. This is the tiniest particle. Each and every particle has its own weight, its own specific gravity, manners, number of atoms, and all the kind of thing. And therefore, he calculated in such a situation, such a precision, people managed to go to the moon even, go to the the planets also. But when the scientific technology increases, it went further. And they found, if you analyze a matter, for example, atom, the concrete particles, the concrete matter, not representing up to 4%, it's a huge space. And ultimately they accidentally met up with dark matter. And dark matter you can't see from the gadgets. You can't calculate, but to fill the picture, they have to say about 4%, yes, there is a kind something called matter, and 26% dark matter. And when that happens, towards the dark matter part, Newtonian physics won't work. Newtonian physics work at all, if at all, only for that 4%. So ultimately, someone has to come out and see how this dark matter works. And then strong atomic collection and weak atomic connections, they are the fields they came out with, and that is how they explain. Now going further, now they are recognized dark energy 70%. So therefore dark matter and dark energy contribute up to the 96%. The matter, from the Newtonian point of view, reduced to the 4%. And so Buddha easily told that is shunya. Out of 100%, 96%, what we call matter is actually not matter. So, under such circumstances, the early calculations and early formulas won't apply unless otherwise for this 4%. Exactly the way when we have lived our lives in our sansaric journey based upon, calculated upon all this concrete matter called earth element, fire element, water element and air element. But if you align your concentration and the mindfulness, when you go through it, you expose into a shadow area which is giving common characteristics. There your language won't apply. Your thinking, rationality won't apply. But undeniably, you can experience it. That is the point where you are preparing your mind from material sphere to the non-material sphere, we can say nama or non-material part. So when it is changing into this non-material part, you have this special question paper or hurdle, or in Buddhism, it is known as Vidassana Upakkilesa. Upakkilesa means you are going to give such an irrational interpretation about each and everything you are going to see, each and every single thing you are experiencing, because it is completely new. So therefore, even if you theoretically understand, I am not believing the soul, I am not believing any self, either in the nihilistic way or in the eternalistic way, whenever the tangible matter, concrete matter come into ceases, going into the unforeseeable level, you can see how much your mind become agitated, how much mind come out with this and that interpretation. That is, if you can carefully listen with the honest, successful, productive yogi, you can understand how the cheating nature of the mind, it is going to give with very little evidence so much of theories, so much of interpretation, so much of commentaries, that enough for that yogi to pull the attention from the meditation and everything go to conceptually. So in order to overcome that, the Buddha has mentioned, whenever the meditation is gathering the momentum, you have to expect, now you are going to get a hurdle, now you are going to get a tricky kind of question paper. They are your simplicity, going back and verifying with the primary object. Of course, at that time, no primary object. But see that this kind of vidassana upaklesha or defilements going to happen. And it's outsider going to help and tell, you came this interpretation due to your desire, this interpretation you due to your conceit, this interpretation based upon ego. The very successful yogi will never in the first place accept it, because it is humiliating, it is challenging. So the teacher or the person who is doing interviews or helping you as the noble friend has to work in such a way to convince the yogi, you are very successful, now the mindfulness is very good, intact, concentration also very intact, and the object also you can see through, and they are, even though in your superficial mind you don't accept the ego or non-ego, you see how the interpretations are happening. So this is a very juicy area, very important area, very critical area. Only in the Buddhism, presenting this kind of a methodology, that successful yogi will meet kind of signals through your successful meditation, which is enough to agitate your mind. That agitation is a positive sign. That agitation you have to survive. That agitation, the Theravada tradition have the theory, have the map, have the role models. So 10 Upakilesas are very interesting, and they are very interesting because all the success will work negatively or contribute to your ego, contribute to your conceit, contribute to your desire. So this area is known as Vanchanika Dhamma, or sometimes it is called the desire in disguise or perversions. The interesting thing is, as far as the perversions are concerned, we are all equal. We have the same nature. But come up to that point, the gross breadth to the subtle breadth, it has your own personality differences. Your upbringing, your culture, your liking and disliking, everything. But when you are nearing to this transition, nearing to these defilements, very interesting, cross-culturally, and irrespective of any religion, each and everyone fall into the trap, but it has been mapped, it has been predicted. So that part hardly we discuss in the religious part of the Buddhism. Religious part of Buddhism is always keeping you happy, doing merits and demerits, this and that. But as far as the defilements or these perversions are concerned, here you have to be very, very rational, very open-minded, and follow and get the guidelines of those who have gone through this stage and those who have the mastery of this stage. So therefore, Visuddhimagga also listed 10 upakilesas or 10 defilements, and they are being known as Dhammuddacca. Dhammuddacca means that kind of agitation happen due to your success, happen due to your achievement, and it is a test. So therefore, you have to understand what is the normal agitation due to defilement in the normal sense, and what are the kind of agitation can happen due to success of your meditation. So these two, first one is very direct and rational. The second part, the design disguise, is only the person, those who have the theoretical knowledge, only the person, those who have practical knowledge can sort it out. In Theravada tradition, we have 10 recognized Vidassana Upaklesha. When that happens, it is happening only for the successful yogis. When that happens, naturally mind becomes agitated, misinterpret or misperceived, and it is none of your personal mistake. It is natural to meet that situation, so therefore going prepared is completely the solely only answer for that situation. So when I am reading this Vidassana Upaklesha, accidentally it happened me to read one of the Mahayana Sutta. Sorry to bring the track into the other side. In the Surangama Sutta, they have recognized 50 defilements. They say, on the way of the yogi, there are 50 demons, 10 demons related to the materiality, 10 demons related to the feelings, 10 demons related to the perception, 10 demons related to the volition, 10 regarding the consciousness. More detailed map they have given. So of course, last time I went to USA, I discussed with Bhikkhu Bodhi, Bhante, when I read these 50 traps, 50 demons, it is a story of the successful yogi. More than our Theravada 10 demons, they are explaining 50, related with correspondence with 5 aggregates. Then he gave me a good version of this translation, and when I am reading, I found, of course, it is a lot of practical hints, lot of practical juice, the sap of the meditation. It is also been recognized, the 50 demons waiting for the successful yogi. So, whenever you go back to the Patisambhida Magga or other explanation of the Buddha explained there are 4 kinds of meditations. One thing is based upon concentration meditation and shifting into the insight meditation. The other one is starting from the insight meditation and then go into the formal concentration meditation. The third one is the combination of the both. The fourth one introduced Dhammuddacca Viggahita Manasa. That is to say, whatever the way you are going at a stage, you have to face this, the desire in disguise or perversions. When that happens, through your success, mind become agitated, mind become perplexed. And there, if you read it as your weakness, as if something to be punishable, you are working negative and disturbing your meditation. So if you go prepared, when that happens, you can really test whether I have my immunity, whether I have my energy, whether I have my straightened objective to survive this situation. So this is the first acid test to see whether you are mentally balanced. Any kind of mental imbalance, or otherwise I would rather emphasize, if you have minuous kind of objective, that also become your enemy. You must have only the Nibbana as your objective. If you are going to do this meditation for the therapeutic value, if you are going to do this meditation, such a high potent meditation for healing, these traps really put you into a whirlpool, and you don't know where to start and where to end. And looking at the general meditation at large, in the society level, you can understand how they define meditation, why they are meditating. Some people do it for the fashion. Some people do it for healing. Some people do it for going to get the mindfulness so that they can study well. All these are good. But they never go through this, the desire in disguise. They will never expect this kind of vanchanika dhamma or perversions, and even if it is there, they will be trapped into that situation. So therefore, mastering of the form, mastering of your physicality, mastering of your in-breath and out-breath itself is full of challenges. Full of challenges because more and more you become successful, the situation becomes very subtle. Situation becomes very critical, important. Only the thing is you must, each and every time, you have to reevaluate why I am meditating. Am I meditating to develop my conceit or ego or any kind of a desire? But the lucky thing is you are being given 1,001 times. One time if you mistake, no problem. Next day you will give another fresh chance, till you correct your view, till you straighten your view, till you develop your rational or radical reflection. You will be given again and again the chance. But if you are so inferior in the objectives, day by day you will fall into the same trap. The day you straighten your objectives and understand the value of meditation, immediately you are open the door to go into the mental part or nama or the non-material part that is demanding very subtle, very tricky or very important section of your meditation. So therefore, those who have the nihilistic view get trapped into, because they can't tolerate when the breath becomes subtle. They get disturbed and they will get up and go thinking, go for forced breathing. Or they will fall into sleeping. But those who, if you have any eternalistic kind of view, whenever this breath becomes very subtle, you will entertain this calmness and this serene nature, and you will get magnetized into that. You will never go beyond that. So therefore, there also you have to balance, not to go into the extremes, but to keep the mindfulness without giving any chances for unwanted attraction or unwanted reaction. So non-reactional way, unassuming way, and the choiceless way now become very subtle, very immediate. The good thing, as I mentioned earlier, you will get 1,001 chances to straighten your view, to correct your interpretation. So the day you refine it, the day you find the middle path, you will understand then onward, the meditation is rather autopiloting. It is natural. It is automatic. Up to that moment, you have to correct. If I am to put it another way, today you may be achieve some kind of success and you will think, in future I will manage when and where that challenge happens. But next day when you sit, again you have to behave like a beginner. You will get trapped in another pocket. There also you have to again apply your rational knowledge, and there you may find, today I am better, I know more tricks. But next day, again another trick may come. You have to assimilate your own ways and means to go through it. So ultimately Buddha is not much important. Your experience, your test, your put into practice become your own master. That is how you develop the confidence upon your morality, your ways and means, your confidence, and even not in the meditation you feel, whenever the challenge happens, it is not a mistake of me, that is the way I am refining, that is the way I am hardening, that is the way I am developing the more resistance. So therefore, more and more challenges happen, more and more you get the chances to go forward, and you must learn the art of meditation as if it is a hobby. No regimentation, no torturing, no kind of a make it as a trouble. So more and more you do in the meditation, of course it is, I am taking the example of sitting and concentrating on your breath or rising and falling. But exactly the same happen when you are in walking meditation. Even if you are in the open eye, even if you do it in the intentional job, and your touch is very gross, and you are more to the nature, even then the same thing can happen. And away from the walking and the sitting, sometimes you may be doing in the day-to-day activities, there also, if you know the art of non-reaction, if you know the art of unassuming way and choiceless awareness, definitely your day-to-day activities also will be cultured, uplifted. You may find the least frictional path under any troublesome situation. And it is the diversification of the sitting meditation, and ultimately, if you know the art of finding the middle path, the best way to present is the least frictional path, that is non-reaction. The day-to-day peace of mind, day-to-day ups and downs will be lower, and of course there may be ups and downs, but with little amplitude, and that make the life more down to earth, more only for the utility value, never for the luxuries or never for your self-mortification. And that situation is again help in sitting meditation, help reduce unwanted issues in your mind. You know how to tackle it. And then the gathering of the momentum of the going in hand, day-to-day activities and the sitting meditation, there is a ethical and psychological connection going to start, and then only it is worth you call as yogi. Till that you are struggling. Till that you are learning the art, how to put day-to-day activities and sitting together. So therefore, your early experience, very ad hoc, very haphazard. You go with your rational knowledge, each time you knock with some kind of a problem, and you think you achieved it, but it is yet another option. Next day again you have to behave like a beginner, again take the challenge as it when it is arises, and don't assume that you have achieved something. And the particular sutta in the Surangama Sutta, it has put in a very nice way. When the breath becomes very subtle, you in the peace of mind, of course it says, the book says, everything is perfect at that time. But if you are going to say, I am achieved, that is the very disturbance or that drop you and developing the ego, putting you into the conceit and you desire. So how can you go prepared, even if you have the no boundary situation, even if you have the peace of mind, even if you master the materiality, you must behave like a beginner. You must behave like a beginner. Anything, this is temporary, this can break off. So even if it is breaking off, I must not be worried. Even if you come to the highest peak, I must not assume that I am a master. So this is the way you have to sharpen your faith. Even if it's completely collapsing, and the mind becomes scattered off, and the body becomes shaky and threatened, still you have to maintain the faith. And sometimes you feel so sleepy, even in walking meditation you start swaying. Even in the mid of the day. So there you have to understand, if you are to master the 5 hindrances, you have to learn the sleepiness while it is under your nose, red-handed. You can't tackle it when there is not sleepy. Though such a bright, such a vivid sleepiness is a good challenge, it's disturbing your mind, but it's a good raw material for you to experiment with. And sometimes you, unbecoming way, you feel I am so unmindful. Your mindfulness is completely scattered out, but you know it. So there also you have to develop kind of mentality, the mindfulness is something changing. Not only the rising and falling or the breath. Mindfulness also changing. This is the way it is arising and passing away. So why should I be happy while it is arising and when I am worrying about when it is passing away? The mindfulness also subject to changes. The most dramatic part is your relationship with the concentration. Because almost all meditators are fanatic lovers of concentration. So whenever the concentration disturbs, you commit suicide. You jump into the sea. You jump into rivers and see what is the use of life if there is no concentration. But you don't believe the concentration is subject to changes. You want to have the concentration like a piece of cheese, a thick volume, keep on tasty without no much of distractions. But the concentration also, just like the faith, is coming up and down. And the so-called wisdom, so-called clarity, so-called seen through nature, that is also subject to change. You feel you are such an idiot, so foolish. Who cares? Because this is human nature. And if you are going to say the wisdom is really myself, foolishness is not myself, you will never achieve, because whenever such a crispy situation, the clarity situation happens, you become elated telling, I am a very successful meditator, today I got the faith, I got the concentration, I got the energy, I got the mindfulness and the wisdom, and next moment everything will be shattered out. So then you will chase him behind your teacher and ask, what happened? Why is that? What mistake I have done? So what is the remedy? The immediate one, shall I go send the patient to the intensive care unit or to the hospital or the normal medicine? That means you never expect this kind of a mishaps. They are not mishaps. They are really hurdles to check, to master, to harden your own faculties, namely the faith, the energy, the mindfulness, concentration and the wisdom. They become power, or the faith as a power, energy as a power, mindfulness as a power, concentration as a power, wisdom as the power, really become mature whenever you are ready to see whether faith is available or not, equal way. Whether energy is available or not, with the equal mind. Concentration available or not, equal mind. Mindfulness is available or not, equal mind. The wisdom is available or not, equal mind. Till you sharpen that point, you will not go through this hurdle. It is not the lack of any faculties. They are there, but they are not up to the galvanizing effect, up to the reinforcement. So reinforcement happen only through the mishaps. But unfortunately, each and every yogi trying to see it is as my mistake, then you are developing inferiority. But the Buddha's teaching is to say it is not your mistake. Whenever mind is going from shifting the paradigm, these hurdles are coming, don't assume them as me. Don't assume achievement as me. Don't assume these mishaps as me. They are on the way. Dhammuddacca, out of the meditation, you get this kind of agitation. It's a very good sign you are progressing. For example, it says, if you are a mother and you are raising a young boy, if the boy is very, dangai kiyana kohada kiyana English? Naughty, mother must be happy. That is the boy. It's growing. If the boy is lying down on the bed and throughout, it is vegetable, it is no use. Mother find easy, but it is a disease. Meditation, specifically I am telling Vipassana, is exactly a naughty boy. But still you must have motherly attendance, motherly knowledge to understand this robust, naughty nature is the sign of growth. You can't keep it in the room, it is jumping out and climbing upon you and all the kind of... So, if you are not ready for this kind of a radical reflection, someone has to say, sorry, you better be content with the concentrated meditation and shut your mouth up. If you wish to go for vipassana, you must have full-fledged ownership for your generosity, ownership for your moral integrity, ownership for your concentration. You must be ready to sacrifice all. Then only the vipassana come in a reinforced manner, come in a galvanized way, and more it becomes reinforced, more and more it becomes galvanized. It is no more yours. It is the natural flow. It is the universal law. Then onward, you can let the meditation to happen according to the law of the nature, the mind, the karmic force, seasonal, all the kind of thing. And anything happen, you see as a cause and effect relationship rather than my mistake or my achievement. And that is the most difficult part, I think, individually to understand. You can philosophize it, you can rationalize it, you can deduce it. But the Buddha giving such a real task for really the person genuinely meditating, this is a kind of rehearsing your death, rehearsing your old age, rehearsing your sicknesses. When such a thing happens, this is what it happens. So under such circumstances, if you are not prepared, if you are not trained yourself, what kind of a panic situation can happen in your old age? When you're nearing the death or when the disease happens. And Buddha says definitely each and every person, jatipi dukkha, jarapi dukkha, vyadipi dukkha, maranampi dukkha. They are just like Four Noble Truths. Definite. But throughout the life, if we entertain only the sensuous pleasure, thinking this is unwanted experiment, why should we search for suffering and why should we go for? Instead, why not entertain the life? Ultimately, when you are coming in contact with and close with these sicknesses and old age kind of thing, what a helpless situation. So even to face the life, even to face the events of the life, once you develop this resistance, once you develop this suchness or equanimity, every people, those who are appreciating the sensuous pleasure will say you are a callous person. You don't experience the pleasure of the life. You don't know how to appreciate this, all the colorful life, and you are talking about this and that, and therefore you are outcasted. It is good if you can get outcasted for that foolish gang. But for that you have to have your own personal commitment, and it must be definitely backed by your meditation. Otherwise you will be theoretically understanding but never give kind of internalization. And for this internalization, it is irrespective of the time. Whether you are living with the Buddha in the Jetavanarama, still the Dhamma is the same. Or even live now 2,600 years later, if you understand Dhamma in such a crispy way, exactly it is working in the same way. And you may think, this suffering is because I am a female, because I am a male, because I am a lay person, because I am non-Buddhist. All these are nothing but your mere explanation, mere escapism. Buddha is asking the simple qualification of being a human. And when you come up to that level, your human nature, your human ability and your human capacity is really, you can be ordained into that. But impossibility is because you are going to use your personal knowledge so much so you are backward. You have to use the universal knowledge. Don't think that I am a learned person, I can tackle this kind of thing. That kind of a personal selfish knowledge is to reinstall your ego, reinstall your conceit, reinstall your desire. So therefore understand how the rational mind is working in a cheated manner, how it is working in a disguised way. And the moment you see it, it is such a hilariating, rejuvenating energy. So far when the situation happened, how I was, how I faced it, what was my rational thinking, and instead if you look at it through this insight manner, way of inside meditation or equanimity, completely different thing. But the most difficult thing you may find is how to communicate with your other fellow beings. Because they are so hectic. They are pressing you to come to decision, asking the reaction, asking for assumption. So living in such a situation, you may find it is easy to live with such a people, those who have non-reaction as a policy of their life, an unassuming way and choiceless way. So that is the time we call the time where the dispensation of the Buddha is here. If it is not there, whatever the effort we are going to take, no use. So therefore expect more and more troublesome, more and more tricky situation, and try your best to assimilate the way out within your capacity. Of course, if it is difficult, you may go to the noble friends and kind of thing. So you must have your positive thinking or constructive thinking. Each and every trouble is a challenge. I have limited amount of tools and ways and means. I must apply it and see, rather than consulting a specialist. And then only you can develop, you can put up with, and it is increasing in terms of your morality, in terms of your faith, energy, mindfulness, concentration and the wisdom. So when that is happening, even in a very slight, very slow manner, don't try to accelerate it. That is dangerous. It must be happening in the natural course. Therefore, it is mentioned, it is painfully slow. The progress is painfully slow. But even then, if you know there's such a pain, such a slow progress, you must facilitate it as much as possible. Pandita Sayadaw, he used to say, your responsibility is to fulfill the courses, but never to expect the results. Expecting results is the culprit. So whenever you are measuring your contribution in terms of the result, mind you, it is a supply and demand theory, it is economic. It is not spiritual. Do the utmost, fulfill your courses as much as possible, and let the maturity take place in its natural accord, and let the results happen. Whenever the courses are fulfilled, result will happen. That is happening through the cause and effect relationship, not due to your urge, not due to your motivation, not due to your will, not due to your volition. Leave it aside, keep that volition, will and everything to fulfill the causes. But never employ, that is to explore into the results. And even the results, expectation happen, just see it is as yet another phenomena. Don't regret it, because that is the way we have been taught. And therefore, more and more the maturity happen, you will understand you are adjusting according to the circumstances rather than you are trying to adjust the circumstance. And then ultimately no friction. You find the least frictional path or critical path, and that is happening when and where you being a human. Any other assumption, any other claim is distorting this view. So therefore, nothing you have to learn on that aspect, because you are endowed with the basic knowledge, but it is being pulled into one side. Either consider this form as a self, or in a nihilistic way, or form has no self, or in an eternalistic way. These things are conditioned to our mind, so disclaim them, but not in the hateful way. Let them play. Let them play. When the meditation happens, each and every time it comes into being, you must be ready to note it, just like the in-breath and out-breath. Never consider, I am such a person with the nihilism, I am such a person with the eternalism. That very knowledge is appreciable. But don't claim it is me, it is mine, or it is myself. Instead, take it as another object of meditation, to put it in a very practical way. When the meditation is really happening, the monotony can happen. The lethargic nature can happen. And the lack of interest can happen. very pale. So you have to understand, so far, your object was the materiality, in-breath and out-breath. So when it is becomes subtle and subtle, this kind of mentality happening and coming and crossing, challenging you, deflating your tires or discharging your battery. But you must understand now, instead of the materiality, you must be ready to note the lethargic nature as lethargic, the monotony as monotony, boredom as boredom, because soon you note it, its nature is changing. If you become too negligent to this kind of thing, their destructive power increases. If you are diligent, as soon as this lethargic nature happens, the boredom happens, the sleepiness happens, if you note it, not as a negative thing, yet as another object, that is how changing of from the materiality to the mentality happen. But in an indirect way, the Buddha has mentioned, not a single sentient being can develop this technique without listening to other person, without giving instruction, without being prepared. So this is the prime task of the Buddha, to let the other person know when you are observing and noting and mindful on the materiality, slowly it is fading off and mentality creeping. Not in the always positive way, sometimes a negative way. So when and where it happens, if you notice, if you note, just like the in-breath and out-breath, you will get the positive as well as the negative, and then develop the balance. And when you are going, when you are surviving that kind of a trouble, then naturally mind is advancing from Kayanupassana to Vedananupassana. That means from the materiality to the feelings. Feeling is the first and foremost thing you meet out of the four mental aspects in your mind. So, if you fail to understand this boredom and lethargic and this kind of thing, you will end up with the torturing agony. The sitting is nothing but a torture, because it is so uncomfortable. But the day you understand, now the breath becomes very subtle and the mind is peaceful, and you are ready to establish it, season it, you withdraw as much as possible the regimentation of the mind or manipulations of the meditation. You learn the art how to let it go, how to be put into the autopiloting. Then only the pleasure, the rapture and the serenity can set in. Exactly the same thing, it depends on your attitude. So therefore, at a time when you are going to react and fight, it's torturing and unbearable pain can happen. The day you be ready to accept it, and then note them as and when it is happened, you see the path is there. So therefore, the Buddha is helpless at that moment. He says, I can't help, I have showed you the path, so try on yourself. And the day you understand the middle path, that is the time you see Dhamma. That is the time you see the Buddha. That is why the Buddha says, those who see Dhamma can see me, but if they misuse it, the technique, and ultimately end up with torturing and burning and kind of thing, they fail to see the Dhamma, but they fail to see the Buddha. But the good part in this meditation is, you will get 1,001 fresh chances. Therefore, while meditating, you have to listen. While listening, you have to discuss. And listening and discussing, you have to put into practice. So it's a kind of a treatment, not with single variable. It's a multiple variable. Keep on practicing. If someone's going to stop halfway, so he is to eat sour mango. If someone continuing with that, you will eat the sweet mango. The present day books. But when I be with the normal lay people, and they told me, yes, generally the picture is this, but there are some good books. There are some, so why don't you? So, and then introducing that, I had no much attraction. It was just a mere eating something gone rotten. Eating something very wet and not tasty like. So after only I come to know there's a certain proportion, really genuine people, really communicating books, and then only the, confidence develops. So therefore, when you are reading, when you are listening, when you are associating, when you are eating, when you are displaying your postures, each and everything has some relevance to the middle part. So, writers or people give these things are not responsible. You are the person selecting, you are the person picking it up, that decides. But the lucky thing is, we have so much of 1001 options, so each time critical. Either you select or sansara or nibbana. No grey area. Mind you, no grey area. If you select wrong thing, it is wrong. If it is correct, it is correct. So therefore, ultimately you will become, in my terminology, your own omnipotent, omnipresent God. No one, second one is deciding upon you. So much so you will get the confidence, you will get the, internalization. All my good and bad, nothing due to some other factors, it is completely within me. Anything happens, I have to bear it up, and bearing it up, I can see through it, and advancement happens. So when that happens, that is how it's a yogi true to type. Then onward, he or she become a yogi. That yogi means engaged person. Anything happen, no escapism. Let it happen in the natural way. You put yourself into and see how you are faring. And when such a thing happens, I think you will be more natural. You will be more down to earth. And the meditation itself will not be a regimentation, will not be a task force. It is just a hobby and keep on doing. But many consider the samatha is easier, vipassana is difficult. Of course, at the beginning it is difficult to get this frame, get this mindset. You have to undergo 1001 challenges, difficulties. And the most tricky part is that your own cheating nature, your own the conceit, or the disguised nature. And if you're going to assume this is as me, mine and myself, it is disheartening and inferiority and humiliation happen. But if you see, in the whole sansaric journey, I have never chance to see my own, so to say, subconscious and this cheating nature. Now only I see it is a aspect to be happy for a bold kind of person. So therefore, vipassana is demanding that kind of a radical reflection. It does not indicate at the beginning you should have this quality. At the beginning, normal, balanced mental situation is enough. But more and more you practice, this rational or this radical reflection become very, very rejuvenating, very, very electric. And that is how you become prepared yourself to go into the mental part or the nama, that is happening always to the rupa dhamma or your corporeality or through your form, materiality. So you must never forget how to have your beginner's mind approach to the materiality. Each day you are starting basic your mindfulness and the concentration through that, then only shorter or quickly or long way, you can go into the mind aspects or namakanda or nama dhamma, and when that happens, you are prepared with certain amount of mindfulness and the concentration, and rather that is happening rather than doing. So therefore, behave like a beginner's mind, and try to develop the concentration and the mindfulness to this whatever the object arising, rather in the form. And when it is calming down, when it is changing its shape and the manner, don't try to interpret each and every stage. You must try to keep the whole episodes one after the other in a frictionless manner. That is how you prepare for the feelings and perception. And this particular sutta also, after dealing with materiality, inviting you to go for feelings, perception, volitional or fabrication, and then the consciousness. So tomorrow I will start with that feeling, but of course I have to make use the already developed this background or the stage to go into the feeling aspect. So therefore always it must be a series of talks, and early talks are helpful for the future, the development. So therefore while meditating, and meanwhile you are meditating and listening, and so day by day preparing to go into the deeper teaching of the Buddha, and leaving room for tomorrow's talk, I would like to end today's talk with this remark, and I expect to continue the same, given that this much is understood. So thank you very much for listening.